March 1993 began like any other spring. In Miami, tourists soaked up the sun at 70,000 degree, plunging to 25 degree. While in New York, the first crocuses began to bloom. No one suspected that a monster was being born in the skies over the Gulf of Mexico. The scene opens at the National Weather Service. We see old CRT monitors, endless ribbons of data paper, and cups of cold coffee. The protagonist is Elijah Green, a veteran meteorologist used to nature's whims. But what he sees on the pressure charts makes him freeze. The atmospheric pressure is dropping at an incredible rate, a process scientists call bombogenesis. 3 independent airstreams, a freezing Canadian front, moist air from the Gulf, and the warm energy of the Gulf Stream, are converging on a single point. Meanwhile, across the country, ordinary life is on display. We see a family in Alabama planning a barbecue and a trucker leaving Atlanta in a light jacket. On TV, anchors joke about a little rain over the weekend. The contrast between the commoner's calm and the growing anxiety within the weather center creates unbearable tension. Elijah tries to reach his superiors. "This isn't just a storm," he says, pointing to the converging isobars. "It's a weather bomb. If we don't call for an evacuation now, people will be trapped." But the political machine is slow. Officials fear panic and the massive costs of logistics. A silence hangs in the air, the very calm where birds stop singing and the sky takes on a strange leaden purple hue. On the evening of March 12th, the first raindrops begin to tap against the glass, gradually turning into ice pellets. The countdown has begun. America does not yet know that tomorrow it will wake up in a different world. The night of March 13th, 1993, became a moment of truth for Florida and the Gulf Coast. The scene begins with the piercing wail of sirens. In the darkness, the ocean transforms into a roaring wall. This isn't just a blizzard, it's a bomb cyclone, behaving like a winter hurricane. First comes the storm surge. The water rises 10 feet, flooding coastal homes in the Big Bend area. We see footage of boats being tossed onto highways and wooden houses collapsing like decks of cards under the impact of icy waves. Then comes the temperature shock. In just a few hours, the mercury drops from summer-like levels to below freezing. This triggers a series of devastating tornadoes, a rare and deadly combination for a single storm system. Around midnight, a twister hits a sleeping town in Lake County. The audience sees pure chaos. Exploding transformers light up the sky with a ghastly green glow. Trees are uprooted, and debris from billboards flies through the air. By morning, the American South is unrecognizable. The camera glides over the snow-covered orange groves of Florida. The golden fruit is encased in a crust of ice, a visual metaphor for the loss of crops and billions of dollars in damages. On the roads of Alabama and Georgia, a literal hell unfolds. Thousands of drivers, who left home in light sweaters, find themselves trapped by snowdrifts. Cars stall, gas runs out, and heaters stop working. We focus on a trucker's family trying to keep their children warm in the cab using rags, while the whiteout rages outside. Meanwhile, in the cities, the lights go out. Power lines snap under the weight of accumulated ice. More than 2 million people are plunged into darkness and cold. Radio stations run on backup generators, broadcasting emergency alerts, but many can no longer hear them. The South, having never seen anything like this, is paralyzed by fear. In the Weather Center, Elijah Green looks at satellite imagery. A massive comma of cloud swirl now covers half the continent. The worst is just beginning, as the storm moves toward the densely populated Northeast. feeding on the heat of the Gulf Stream. By midday on March 13th, the storm of the century reaches its climax. It is no longer a local weather event. It is an atmospheric giant stretching from Cuba to Quebec. For the first time in U.S. aviation history, the skies over the entire East Coast become completely empty. Every airport from Atlanta to Boston is shut down. Thousands of people are stranded in terminals, watching through massive windows as the world outside vanishes into an impenetrable white wall. Shots of empty runways buried under 5 feet of snow emphasize the absolute impotence of technology against the elements. In Pennsylvania and the Appalachian Mountains, the situation turns critical. Record snowfall is recorded here, up to 60 inches in 24 hours. We follow the story of a rescue team on snowmobiles trying to reach a mountain village cut off from the world. Winds reach 100 mph, equivalent to a Category 2 hurricane. Visibility is 0. The scene is saturated with sound, the deafening roar of the wind clawing through house walls. Inside buildings, people watch in horror as snow, driven by the wind, seeps through door cracks and keyholes. In New York and Washington, life grinds to a halt. Giant metropolises turn into ghost towns. The camera pans across an empty Times Square, where billboards continue to glow, reflecting off ice crystals. But not a single soul is on the street, except for rare patrol cars stuck in drifts. Meanwhile, in the Appalachians, hundreds of hikers and residents are trapped in national parks. Cell service doesn't exist yet, and the only hope lies in old radio sets. Elijah Green at the Weather Center coordinates data, realizing that the total number of people without power has reached 10 million. This isn't just snow, it's the physical destruction of infrastructure, he reports to the White House. We see the president signing emergency declarations for a dozen states simultaneously. But help cannot arrive. Machinery fails, and snowplows simply sink into the white mass. A nation accustomed to controlling everything finds itself in a state of primal fear of the cold. The silence of abandoned cities is interrupted only by the crack of falling trees and the explosion of transformers, sounding like an artillery barrage. The morning of March 14th brought a haunting silence. The storm had moved north toward the shores of Canada, leaving behind a world that looked like a different planet. The sun, reflecting off the vast snowfields, was blinding. But behind this beauty lay a tragedy. The scene begins with helicopter footage. We see the Florida coastline, where only foundations remain of elite beach houses, and the forests of North Carolina, where trees lie as if mown down by a giant scythe. Operation Great Cleanup begins. The National Guard is deployed to the streets. We see soldiers on armored personnel carriers delivering food and medicine to isolated regions of the Appalachians. In one episode, rescuers find a house completely buried in snow up to the roof. They have to dig a tunnel to the front door to rescue an elderly couple. The death toll begins to rise. Some succumbed to hypothermia. Others suffered heart attacks while trying to shovel heavy, wet snow. And some fell victim to carbon monoxide poisoning while trying to stay warm in closed garages. A food crisis begins in the cities. Grocery store shelves are empty, and food delivery is impossible due to blocked highways. We see lines for bread and water that resemble scenes from war movies. The economic damage is estimated at an astronomical $6 billion for that time. But the most significant moment is the emotional breakdown. People who felt safe in their modern homes realized how fragile their civilization truly is. Elijah Green at the Weather Center summarizes the aftermath. He looks at a map marked with casualties. From Cuba, where dozens died from floods, to the northern states. He realizes that despite the accuracy of the forecasts, the warning system failed. People heard the warnings, but did not grasp their severity. "We predicted the storm, but we did not prepare their souls for it," he says in a press interview. This part ends with footage of mass funerals and a slow, heavy recovery, as the melting snow begins to reveal the outlines of wrecked machinery and shattered lives. Several decades have passed. The scene begins in a modern, high-tech NOAA situational center. We see massive interactive screens, supercomputers, and ultra-high-resolution satellite imagery. An older but still sharp Elijah Green walks down the corridor like a living legend. He stops at a memorial plaque dedicated to the victims of March 1993. For him, this isn't just history. It's a scar on the nation's heart. In this segment, we analyze the legacy of the storm of the century. It was after this catastrophe that the U.S. National Weather Service was completely overhauled. The audience learns that before 1993, forecasts were often ignored. But the Great Blizzard proved that information is a matter of life and death. New numerical prediction models and the emergency mobile alert systems we use today were implemented because of this event. Archival footage transitions into modern graphics, showing how such monsters are tracked now. However, the finale carries a chilling warning. We see documentary clips from recent years, anomalous freezes in Texas, the increasing frequency of superstorms, and drastic temperature swings. Elijah speaks to a class of meteorology students. "We've learned to see the storm a week before it arrives," he says. "But have we become stronger? Our infrastructure has become more complex, which means it's more vulnerable. One snapped trunk cable or a power grid failure at Sarkstan, Bordegrons, 20 Degavl, can turn a modern metropolis into a trap just as fast as it did in '93. The film ends with a powerful visual sequence. The camera slowly zooms out from Earth, showing the beauty and terrifying power of atmospheric vortices. We hear the sound of the wind, which gradually fades into quiet, solemn music. The final credits remind the viewer, nature does not play by our rules. It only gives us time to prepare. The screen displays a final number, 310 dead, followed by the list of states that will forever remember those 3 days in March. The screen goes black, leaving the audience in silence.